Hi everyone, this is Brandy. I'm a furniture painter out of Sacramento, California, and my page is called Brushed by Brandy. And today I'm going to be doing this desk right behind me. So this piece has a little bit of a story. My one and only niece just turned 16. Happy birthday. So for her sweet 16, her mom let me know that she needed a desk. And so I wanted to make her dream desk. So when I asked her what color she wanted, she said, just white is fine. And I said, we don't do just white. So with her giving me a fairly simple color palette, I needed ways to add extra interest without using crazy colors and techniques. So what I decided to do was add pattern and texture using fairly muted colors. And so my pattern that I added has some stripes on the drawer, and then the sides of the desk also have striping on them. And then for my texture, I used a anaglypta wallpaper on the drawers. And anaglypta wallpaper is just a textured paintable wallpaper. It comes in rolls, and the best place I've found these rolls is on Amazon. I've had luck finding a couple on Facebook Marketplace. They are about $40 a roll, but you will get so many projects out of this one roll. There's quite a bit on here. So it comes in all different patterns. So what I'm going to use today is kind of a Art Deco-y pattern, but this is more of a floral pattern. And the paper is fairly thick. It's very nice to work with. It lays very easily. So this is a great medium to use if you're new to decoupaging. It doesn't have problems with bubbles and a lot of things like maybe thinner papers do, like the, using paper napkins you hear about a lot. This is a very nice, thick, textured paper. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the full process on this side of the desk of how I achieved this look over here. So this is my finished side here. So I'm going to start on the top drawer here. You guys come on and let me know where you're watching from, and if you've used Dixie Belle paint before, what your favorite colors are. Today I'm using, my desk has a base coat of 2 coats of drop cloth, and then my striping is done in caviar. So this is literally 2 colors, very simple colors, a white and a black. That's why we're adding this texture today. So I'm going to start with how to cut the paper. So when I cut this paper, I took all my drawers out and I literally put them in a line like this. And then I took my paper. I did this because I wanted my pattern on the paper to match up along the drawer fronts. So I took my paper and I laid it over like this, and I cut a line. So I ended up with a rectangle that fit over the top of all of my drawers. And then once I had that, I took a razor blade and sliced in between the drawers. So then when I laid it on, you can see, for example, here, these two, can you see that medallion on the front? Matches up from drawer to drawer. So it's very subtle, but little details like that make a big difference. So this piece here is the piece that I cut to go on the top of this drawer. So when I lay it, I need to make sure that my pattern stays matching up with the drawer just below it.
So you've got Melissa from Texas.
Hi, Melissa.
Myrna from Florida.
Hi, Florida. That's
Barbara from Pennsylvania.
Wow. I think we just covered the whole country.
North Carolina, Tracy's from. Aspen is Camino Island, Washington.
Oh, I was going to say Camino, California, because that's close to us.
And Gina's from North Carolina.
Hi, guys. Thank you for watching on your Sunday. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. Okay, so what I'm going to use to attach this piece that I've already cut here is, this is wallpaper paste. And this is just from Home Depot. So this is a really easy find. It's a small container, seals nicely. So this amount will last you, again, through several projects. You could do a larger piece with this too. So I'm just going to use a chip brush. Just a really inexpensive chip brush because I'm just laying on adhesive. And I'm going to, my drawers have already all been cleaned and lightly sanded. I just want a clean, smooth surface to lay this onto. So I'm going to dip into my wallpaper paste and I'm going to paste my drawer. I like wallpaper paste. Mod Podge is another alternative for doing this, but this is a thicker paper, and I like the security I have with knowing I laid it with wallpaper paste. It's meant for this thicker paper.
Well, you got people from Oklahoma,
Wow.
Littleton, North Carolina, Tennessee.
Have you guys used Dixie Belle before? Let's see. I will post my affiliate link on here afterwards too, so you can see what products we use and what colors as well.
Elaine says, hello, I'm painting with the Dixie Belle buttercream while she's watching.
Perfect. Glad to provide you some entertainment. So I also like to butter the back of my paper. So I'm going to also put the same adhesive right onto the back of my paper, just a very thin coat. And that is because I want to know that my paper is coated, my drawer is coated. I don't have any loose edges that are going to come up.
Carmen's in Germany.
Wow. International. It always amazes me how far-reaching these, Facebook Live can be.
And yet, no one from California yet.
Yeah. We're in California, Sacramento, California. Okay, so I'm laying the paper onto my drawer. I back buttered this. It's cut large, which is okay. I'm going to leave it on there cut large until that glue dries. So I've just laid it on my drawer. Make sure I have it nice and straight. And I'm going to press it down good. And then I held it up to my next drawer underneath. Again, I'm just checking for a pattern match. And I hold my drawer edges next to each other, and those line up pretty good. So that's how simple it is to lay on. Then I'm going to let this dry overnight.
There we go. Some people from California. Corey.
Thank you. Oh, is that my sister?
Yes.
Thanks,
Teresa
Corey.
from San Diego.
Corey is my sister, you guys, and this is for her daughter, Natalie, my 16-year-old niece.
Ruth
so
from Canyon Country. All right.
I let them know they needed to come watch me paint her desk on camera today. So I've got the paper laid nicely on here. I'm smashing it down, and you can hear, I can hear here, the bubbles are pressing out. I can hear the bubbles pressing out. So I want to get it nice and smooth. And then I have this really thick wallpaper brush, and I just use that with some gentle pressure to give it nice, even coverage. Want it to adhere on my entire piece of paper. Another tool that works really good for smoothing decoupage is, this is just a little cake spatula that I use sometimes. And this doesn't work so good on the texture, but on flat wallpaper, I love this as a tool for smoothing out my decoupage. So for now, for this texture, I'm going to use this thick brush. Okay, and I don't hear those bubbles popping out anymore. That tells me I have good adherence. You can see some of my adhesive kind of starts coming through here, and that's okay because it's going to dry clear. For example, my dry drawer, other than being a little dirty, it had that too, and it dries and you can't even see it. So I'm okay with that. So like I said, this is cut too large for my drawer. I'm going to let this one dry overnight, and I will come back and trim the excess. So my next drawer, we're done with our wallpaper paste. So let me put the lid on this before I spill it all over. It's like
You don't want it to get on the floor.
It's like a thick pudding almost, but it spreads really evenly. I prefer it for this over Mod Podge, but Mod Podge is definitely an alternative. So this is a drawer I did, and you can see it's cut large. It needs to be trimmed. It's not quite as large as our top drawer because this was in the middle where I trimmed the edges with the razor blade already. So it got nice and close, but it's not close enough. I want to get that little edge off. So this has dried overnight. It's nice and secure. It's not going anywhere. My edges are really adhered. And how I do this, I just take a straight razor blade. These are just straight razors. And then I'm just going to come to the edge of my drawer, and I'm going to find a place I can get a nice start on the paper without slicing my finger. Let me get a start on this. Okay. So I turn my blade to like a 45-degree angle, and that's just so I get a nice clean edge on my paper. And I just run that along my drawer edge. And then if you can feel this here, it is dead on the edge of that drawer. And it's adhered. I'm going to rub my finger in here, but it's not pulling up anywhere. You want to check for that too. If you have places that maybe didn't get adherence on them, you can come back with your wallpaper paste and just slip some into those spots, because you don't want to have any pieces that are lifting. So again, this is the side. I'm going to tip it to like a 45-degree angle. And cut that part off. So I've got a nice smooth side here. I'm going to pull these little. Okay, I'm going to do my top. Guys, I used to work at a supermarket in high school, and I did one time sliced a razor blade into my finger, so I have this fear. Still have the scar.
Well, the nice thing with having the razor on the 45 is it also minimizes you cutting into the wood.
Yeah, and it gives
it's more of a guide.
It gives me a tapered edge on the paper, so it's not exactly a straight flat edge on there.
So Linda's chiming in from Lubbock, Texas.
Wow, we have a lot of Texans.
Stephanie Kim from California.
Are we the only ones who have daylight savings in California? Does the rest of the country still do daylight savings? I thought a lot of places were getting rid of it now. Anyway, we had daylight savings last night, so this will be posted on the Dixie Belle page and on my page as well afterwards for anyone to catch on replay that hasn't reset their clocks yet. But it's noon in California, I swear.
Yeah, we do things different here in California.
Yeah, everything we do is different in California. Not always.
So Lori from New Jersey is asking, why not just sand it?
You can just sand it, but these edges are not hardened because I don't have adhesive all around. So these are soft edges, and I feel like this gives me a cleaner edge. I actually did sand these to distress them a little bit, but I just cut it with a razor blade. It's easier, faster, cleaner. Personal preference, probably.
All right, now we got some people chiming in. Maryland, Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, daylight savings in Texas too.
Okay, good. That's good to know. I think maybe
Kentucky.
Maybe it was Florida. I just read about getting rid of daylight savings.
I think we should just get rid of it.
I wish California would too. Okay, so this is, my drawer is trimmed out now. So my paper is nice and adhered. My drawer is trimmed out. This one I've already trimmed as well. So once it's dry and trimmed, I'm going to come in. This is Dixie Belle Paint and Caviar. Caviar is their black. I see a lot of people looking at Midnight Sky as a black too. You guys, they look almost the same. And Midnight Sky on the website looks black. It is a navy blue. Midnight Sky, I'm sorry, not a navy blue, a midnight blue. So Midnight Sky is more of a midnight blue, but Caviar is a truer black.
So just to touch base, Lori wanted to know what you were gluing it down with. She just chimed in.
I use, Lori, wallpaper paste. This is my bucket of wallpaper paste. It's like a thick pudding, and I just buttered it on with a chip brush onto my drawer and also onto the back of my paper. So this one's over here drying. This is what we attached. I'm checking over here. I'm going to come back to this drawer and just pushing my edges down because that's really where I want it adhered very well. I don't want any chance that these edges are out. I'm going to top coat it and pretty much encapsulate the paper in a top coat so I know that it's nice and protected and will wear well. So these are my dry drawers. I've laid the paper on. I've trimmed it. And this wallpaper is paintable. Not every wallpaper is paintable, so you want to check before you're painting on wallpaper and make sure that it is paintable.
So Stephanie wants to know how this paint compares to Fusion.
Totally different animals, Stephanie. They are comparing oranges and apples. So I use Fusion as well, but I like it for different looks. I feel like Dixie Belle blends better and distresses better than Fusion, but Fusion does a very nice, clean, smooth finish. So it depends on what your taste is, what look you're going for. Dixie Belle is a mineral paint, whereas Fusion is an acrylic base. So they're just different animals. It's really, you can't even compare them. I would say they're just in different categories.
And Teresa wants to know where you get the paste, the wallpaper paste.
Just Home Depot. So your local hardware store should have some brand of wallpaper paste. It doesn't necessarily have to be that brand, but your local hardware store should have a wallpaper paste. I made sure I got the top of my drawer, so I coated my edges. I'm getting the sides of my drawer, just right up to this edge here. I'm going to do this one over here. I want my entire paper covered. And this is going to take 2 coats. So it's black, it's a dark color, and I'm going over white. That is pretty good coverage though. And I just made sure I got it into all the texture. I'm looking around. I don't want any bare white spots.
Angie says off topic, but your hair looks awesome.
Thank you. I just got my hair done. I'm trying to grow it out, guys, and it's at that awkward stage. So
Karen wants to know if you could use spray adhesive.
You could. I've used spray adhesive before. I don't have the confidence in how spray adhesive will wear that I have in wallpaper paste. I think it's fine. I would prefer if you're going to use spray adhesive to choose a recessed panel, something that has a frame around it so your edges aren't exposed. So if it does start to lift, those edges are not going to be vulnerable to tearing or anything. This does not have a frame around it, so I want like 100% security that my edges are not going to start lifting. I have used spray adhesive, but I did it on a recessed panel where it was an inset, the edges aren't exposed, and I felt better about that. Because you really do coat all of this with a top coat, which kind of encapsulates your wallpaper.
And then to recap, where did you get the wallpaper from?
The wallpaper. So the wallpaper I just got off Amazon. It is about $40 a roll, so it's a little bit pricey, but you will get a lot of projects out of it. And it comes in all different kinds of patterns. So I'm using kind of an Art Deco, maybe more geometric pattern. You know what this pattern looked like to me? Let me show you what my roll. This looks like, I thought this would be such a cool idea to take this paper. It looks like tin ceiling tiles. If you took, you know, this big square here and attached it to a piece of plywood or a thin piece of wood and used Dixie Belle patina paint on this, it would look like old rusty ceiling tiles. I want to do that. So that's on my to-do list, but I just thought this paper would be perfect. It has that look to me. So this is just one type, one pattern. Comes in florals and geometric and, you know, I'm sure you can find polka dots, but I just get it on Amazon. I've been lucky enough to find a few on Facebook Marketplace. If you search wallpaper, there's people selling wallpaper out there. You could use, this is a paintable textured wallpaper. You could use a patterned wallpaper and do this the same way and just not paint over it too. So if you wanted to say get a floral detail on your drawer or something, you know, wallpaper is a great option. It's so easy to decoupage with. Whereas, you know, paper napkins and things get wrinkles and bubbles, posters, things like that. You don't have those with wallpaper. It's just, it's worth, I think, the extra money to buy the nicer paper that lays really well. So that is, I painted those 2 drawers. So those, I'm going to let those dry overnight. So I've got my paper dries overnight. My paint dries overnight. This is a drawer that has already dried. And could you reach behind me and grab me a sanding sponge? A sanding sponge? I forgot something, guys. So I just wanted to show one option on here because this has the texture in it. You could come back with a sanding sponge and you can distress this if you want. Totally optional. So if you just want to highlight some of the raised portions, you can take your paint back and expose the white underneath. I didn't choose that for this look. So for this one, once I painted it and let it dry overnight, I came back and laid a top coat all around it. This one I distressed the edges on just by sanding. You can see that the sanding, and I just exposed the edges of the paper. Still, again, really well adhered with that wallpaper paste. It's not going anywhere, guys. So I exposed the edges with the light sanding. You guys see that around here? That just gave me a little bit of the white peeking through. But when I put my top coat over that, it's all protective, the entire thing. So my top coat that I used on this is Dixie Belle Gator Hide. This is my favorite top coat because I know that it dries rock hard. It's water repellent. My container is getting a little low, so I just poured it into this little dish. And I have a Dixie Belle application sponge. These are really nice to use. My sponge is slightly damp, so I just soak it under the faucet and then squeeze out as much as I possibly can.
So Terry says, I love using textured paintable paper.
Yes.
She's never used Dixie Belle on it, but probably will soon.
Yeah, absolutely. They two work great together because you have so much color selection. I could have made these drawers any color. Again, this was for my 16-year-old niece, and she told me that I could use white. And then when I pressed her for, well, are there other colors you like? She said, well, you can use black. And I was like, wow, thanks for the color options. So since she didn't give me color to work with, I used texture and pattern on this piece.
So Lori mentions off topic, but when doing transfers, which she's never done, they are asking if she wants it reversed.
The transfer should be already in reverse. Oh, if you're doing an image transfer that you've printed yourself, you need to print it backwards. It needs to be printed on reverse so that when you lay it, it lays correctly. But yes, if you're using a LaserJet printer and you are printing an image to transfer, you need to make sure that you print it backwards. There's most printer programs will give you the option to reverse the image. Just make sure you reverse it. So I'm top coating this with my sponge. I'm just going over it. I'm making sure that I get all the edges all the way around. Because like I said, I'm coating this. I want this to stay, and everything now is protected with this wipeable top coat. So it will wear really nicely. You guys, how simple was that? I just got a textured pattern onto this otherwise fairly flat drawer when I didn't have color options to use. And that just gave interest to my drawer. So from here, I go behind my drawer and I will, get a screwdriver out. There it is. I will poke through my drawer holes with my screwdriver. See it just peek through right there? That gives me enough to just attach my hardware to.
Steve wants to know what the top coat was.
Top coat was Dixie Belle Gator Hide.
And then Shannon wants to know what you used to glue the paper down.
Wallpaper paste, Shannon. Wallpaper paste. You could use a Mod Podge. I feel really comfortable with wallpaper paste, knowing that it was made for this medium, that it gives me good adherence. So my top coat isn't dry yet, but you can see now I would just punch my hardware through and it would be attached to my drawer. So these three are going to dry, and then I'm going to take pictures and I will post this final look on here. So let me know if you guys have any questions, but that was pretty much it. I think we've got a really interesting looking piece from some pretty simple textures. Here again is my finished side. And I like the combination of this with the striping. It looks like old French to me, with that tin ceiling tile, a little bit of curvy on here. So that's about it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll post my affiliate link on here if you guys want to order any of the products you saw today. The Dixie Belle products I used are Dixie Belle Gator Hide. My base coat was 2 coats of Dixie Belle drop cloth. And then my black is Dixie Belle Caviar.
Myrna wants to know if you just painted the stripes.
No, I didn't. Myrna. So I did my base coat of my drop cloth. I came back with blue painter's tape and I taped off my stripes. And those would remain white underneath. Then before you go back with your black, you should recoat the edges in your base color. And that way any bleed through on the tape underneath will bleed through as your base color. You can also just coat your edges in like a little bit of clear Mod Podge. That way your bleed is going to be the clear Mod Podge. You just don't want to start right away with your black without coating the edges of your tape, because otherwise you'll get bleed. That gives you a nice clean line for striping.
And then Lynn wants to know if you sanded the drawers first.
Yes, I did. Lynn. I sanded them and I cleaned them really well. So you want to make sure that you're laying this on a nice, clean, smooth surface. Although, if you had a damaged drawer, something that you couldn't repair, this would be a great option for covering that. It gives you texture over it where you wouldn't notice if I had damage on the front of my drawers. So if you've got damage that you need to hide, this is a great option for that. So, all right, guys, I'll let you go get back to your Sunday. Thank you so much for watching.